Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at the Marco Makes Spinosaurus. This is a figure that I was super happy to get a hold of because there was a very limited run initially of them. I know he does have plans to make more, but the initial run was I was very limited. I can't remember the exact number, but I was lucky enough to be able to get one ordered and have it shipped to me, and I am so super happy now to have it right here in my collection, but also to review for you guys. Again, the Marco Makes Dinosaur figures are extremely cool, very impressive figures because it is a one-man job. It is only Marco that sculpts the figures. He casts the figures, he paints the figures, does everything all on his own, and creating figures with like the rubber type of feel and including things like sound inside and articulation. That's just so much for one man to handle. So it overall is an extremely impressive operation on the part of Marco Makes. And again, his Rubbersaurs are absolutely awesome. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get a closer look at this Spinosaurus right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt, you can see that as far as the skin texture goes here on the head sculpt, it is really beautiful, as is the paintwork. You can see just a ton of really nice kind of tones of color right here in the face. You have like a whiter coloration. You also have the gray creeping in. You have this dark red. Then you have a nice darker red around the eye. The eye is painted with a nice green with a black pupil, and it's very reminiscent as far as the coloration and the appearance to the Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3. He's done such a great job of really capturing all the details of the Spinosaurus that you really want to find, like that little hook jaw. You also have the small crest up here, and just generally the head shape is really beautifully done. I feel like it pretty much perfectly matches the Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus, which is something that many people try to recreate but don't quite capture that perfect feel. I feel like there's a very small number of companies that have pulled it off really well, like Nanmu and W Dragon, but I think Marco here has done just an absolutely excellent job as well. You can see the nostrils up here on the snout. If we open the mouth, of course the mouth is articulated, although this isn't exactly how you're supposed to operate it, but you can see the teeth are sculpted out in there. They are painted, and you can also see the inside of the mouth there painted with a pinkish coloration, and there is actually a bit of a gloss coat in there, so it shines pretty realistically. You can also see the tongue inside the mouth in there as well, and to actually operate the articulated jaw, you do this, you just kind of squish right here and it opens the mouth, which is really cool to have that kind of articulation on the figure as well. As we start to move down the neck, you can see some skin folding and everything going on. You can also take note to the throat right here. Beautiful skin texture up here. You see the kind of trademark, almost armored type of a look to the top of the Spinosaurus on the top of the neck. You can actually also see the top of the head sculpt looks really nice, very large scales up here as well. But as we move down here, you can continue to see that very trademark, almost armored type of scaling, that very large scaling on the top of the Spinosaurus. We get to the sail. The sail looks picture perfect as far as how I recall it looking. That very nice kind of wavy type of an appearance, and then the texturing inside the sail also looks really nice, and it's painted with a bluish coloration, and then you have some kind of white throughout it, and then you also have that darker red that sort of runs around the border of the sail and also runs down here right under the sail, which does look really nice. Here in the stomach region, you can see some very large scales, and I love again how beautiful of a job he's done. Like, you can see how nice and fine the skin texture is right here. You can also see a lot of skin wrinkling going on right there in the neck, but you can see how fine the scales are right here, and then they get larger and then they get smaller. So it's really cool to see so many different varying sizes of scales. Really well done on the part of Marco Makes. As we move down here into the arms, you can definitely get a really good sense of the musculature of the dinosaur in the arms. You can also see the elbow back here. Coming down into the hand sculpt looks really nice. You have some scoots down the fingers, beautifully painted nails, of course that very big trademark Spinosaurus claw there. And then you come back up here into the body. If we move the legs back a little bit, you can see the really beautiful skin detail, kind of some skin folds and everything going on. Really nice skin detail here on the underside as well. Beautiful skin texture. Nice white paint has been added down here. If we come back up here into the hip, you can make out the hip bone a little bit right there. You can see kind of like some scoots that run across that, and then some large scales as we move down into the thigh. Very large, very bulky thighs there, very nice and muscular. You can definitely see how nicely sculpted out the musculature of the thigh is, as is the calf. Very large bulging calf muscles. Moving down into the foot, that foot sculpt is absolutely beautiful. really nice scoots down the toes, very reminiscent to the Spinosaurus from the film. Beautifully painted nails on the feet as well with a nice black coloration. And if we move this forward, you can see that the dew claws, actually we'll move it back, the dew claws are present back there. So that's awesome as well. Coming back up into the tail, you can see more of that really large scaling down here on the bottom of the tail, and then coming back up to the top, we get some more of that large scaling up here as well. You can see the ridges that kind of lead off of the spine run the course of the tail, and then you can also see that the skin texture, as does the paintwork, looks really nice the entire way out the tail. The tail actually does have a wire in it, so you can bend it and position it however you would like, very much so like you get from time to time with Rebor. Now, looking at the opposing side, you're not going to really see much difference, honestly, because the figure is totally neutral because it's an articulated figure. We'll take a quick glance over it regardless. Again, the head sculpt looks beautiful. I love the fact that he's painted the teeth with an off-white rather than like a bright white, so it has a much more realistic appearance to the coloration of the teeth. And again, as we move back into the body, you can see that stripe pick up, that white stripe that is reminiscent of the Spinosaurus from the film. Transitions down here into the darker gray that is the primary body color, and you can also see a mixture of like that white and gray up here on the lower jaw, giving it some really nice color variation. Again, beautiful musculature here in the arm over here. Really nice hand sculpt, just like we had seen on the previous side. And then coming back here into the body, some more really beautiful skin detail as far as like skin bunching up, skin folds, and all of that. And you can see more of it as we move the leg back. You can definitely see more really nice skin detail created by Marco right there. Very nice leg sculpt over here, beautiful foot sculpt, again, just like we had seen on the previous side. He does a great job of really capturing very nice, minute details, even some creasing going on in the back of the leg. And then we run out the length of the tail once again out here to that very long tail, which is something that's awesome to see because the Mattel version was severely lacking as far as the tail length. But again, a really, really beautiful Spinosaurus, and one of the coolest aspects of the figure, in my opinion, is this. We'll do that once more. So having the sound effect of the Spinosaurus is pretty much the icing on the cake for one of the best dinosaur figures that I think I have in my collection. This Spinosaurus is awesome. Now, as far as articulation goes, you saw the articulated jaw, which you just squish down here to open it. You also have articulation in the arms. You have articulation in the legs, both arms, and then, of course, the tail is on a wire, so you can fold it and bend it however you would like. And another really awesome aspect of the figure is the fact that it balances really well, and you can see it standing totally on its own with no assistance, and it stands perfectly, which is really, really cool, and pretty much proves to you that we don't need those larger feet that Mattel gives us all the time for figures to stand, as the feet do not look overly large at all. On this one, everything proportion-wise, in my opinion, looks pretty darn good. So another really awesome aspect to the Marco figures is the fact that they can stand independently, and this shows you that quite nicely. As far as a size on the Spinosaurus goes, for a length, we are going to pull the Spino back here a little bit to get the tail into frame here. So once we get this up here to the front of the head, because it's a pretty darn big figure, and we get to the end of the tail, you are looking at about 23.5 inches, or just under 60 centimeters for a length. So again, a very big figure. As far as a height goes, to the top of the sail, you are going to see it come in at about 9 3/4 inches, or about 25 centimeters to the top of the sail. And we're not really going to measure to the top of the head, honestly, because that's very different depending on how you're positioning your Spinosaurus. If you have it standing more upright, it'll be a totally different size than what we have here at kind of a more natural position, but it's also leaning down just a little bit. So we're not really going to bother with a height to the top of the head because it pretty much would differ depending on how you position your Spinosaurus. But for a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Colovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon next to our exceptionally large Marco Makes Spinosaurus. And you can see next to these figures here exactly what I was talking about when I stated that the Spinosaurus sports some very large size. If I were the Paparex, I would get out of here because I know that the Spinosaurus does have a habit of killing Tyrannosaurs, and his size shows that he's not much of a battle for this Spinosaurus, but hopefully these figures will help to give you a good idea of what the size of this Spino is. And for a second size comparison, here is the Nanmu Spinosaurus next to the Marco Makes Spinosaurus, and you can see that now even the Nanmu one is quite small overall when it comes to the body mass, length, height, everything. On the Marco Makes Spinosaurus, it is just a pretty big difference, I would say, but both here look extremely cool next to each other. So hopefully, after seeing these size comparisons, you definitely will have a better idea of what the size of this Spinosaurus is and the fact that it's quite large. So this Marco Makes Spinosaurus is an absolutely awesome figure. Again, the single most impressive aspect to me about Marco and his releases is the fact that all of it is done just by him. That is a lot of work to put on one man's shoulders, and he does a phenomenal job of doing exactly what he seems to have been meant to do in life, and that is create absolutely awesome dinosaur figures, and specifically his Rubbersaurs line, which he has been taking very seriously and working on consistently. Now, some people do seem to get a little frustrated that there aren't that many figures from him available to purchase all the time, but again, you have to take into consideration the fact that it's a one-man job. So he's pretty much always working on dinosaur figures, it seems, but being just one man, it's going to take quite a lot of work to get a few figures, a very small run of figures released. So you're just going to kind of have to bear with Marco over time. If you are intending on purchasing his figures, you miss a round of figures, just kind of look out for the next round, because again, being just one guy doing it all, it's not something that he can provide a ton of figures as if he were sending them off to a factory to be created or anything like that. So it's definitely something that takes patience, but I can say without question that patience is a good thing to have, because when you actually get the figure and you finally do acquire one, it is 110% worth the wait. This Spinosaurus is really beautiful overall. The sculpting, I think, is extremely impressive, and just how well he's done of a job of matching it up to the Spinosaurus from the film, it's very impressive to me. It just looks so insanely good. Pretty much exactly as my mind recalls the Spinosaurus looking, because I feel like a lot of other companies just haven't really pulled it off that well. Like, there's always just these very minor things I feel like that are a little bit off about most Jurassic Park 3 Spinosaurus attempts, but Marco pretty much has hit the nail on the head with everything that I can see here as far as this Spinosaurus goes. So kudos to Marco on doing such a great job of really capturing that beautiful film and screen accuracy type of a look. But again, really nice sculpt work. He's got lots of very fine detail in the figure, and as far as the paintwork goes, he has told me in the past that the material he uses to create the figures takes a very specific kind of paint, as I had at one point questioned him about buying the unpainted ones so that I could paint them myself, and he had given me a little rundown as far as what it takes to paint them, and it's definitely something that seems like a little bit of a hassle for him to have to create these figures, is to use these special, more expensive types of paint. So again, the paint job is actually really well done for what I would consider kind of like this type of a figure, an articulated toy of a Spinosaurus. I think he has done a great job with the actual paint application, and really nicely applied like very different tones, like up in the head specifically. I love that he's used like lighter and darker tones of red up there, especially around the eye. It just looks really cool, and he's done a very good job overall, I think, of getting the gist of pretty much the entire Spinosaurus from Jurassic Park 3 and really hammering out a nice paint job on this figure. The fact that this figure has articulation as well is extremely cool. I could never in a million years figure out how to do that on my own, and he has done a really good job of doing that, and also creating articulation on the figures that works really well, including things like the articulated jaw where you squeeze the head. And then the icing on the cake is the fact that it includes the noise for this Spinosaurus. Again, it's amazing to me that Marco has sorted out ways to create all of this on his figures. It just shows you how incredibly impressive his figures are overall. And then you also have the articulation with a wire in the tail. So again, there's just so much to be impressed about when it comes to this figure, and that's pretty much the way I feel every single time I see something Marco makes, is always impressed. So If you would like to pick one of these up, I can give you the link to Marco Makes Etsy store, and you can continue to check back as time goes on. He has intended on making many more Rubbersaurs in the near future, so hopefully you'll have an opportunity at some point to pick one of these up. So make sure you check the link in the description. Head to Marco Makes Instagram, head to his Etsy store. Just keep up to date with Marco everywhere, including YouTube, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.